Welcome back to the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Raj, and I'm here with my amazing co-hosts FAAB and Nacc. It's another Overreaction Monday, and we're ready to dive into all the chaos from the jam-packed Week 4 Sunday slate. We'll be breaking down the biggest winners and losers of the Sunday games, sharing as usual critical injury updates, and with bye weeks just around the corner, we got to help those fantasy managers navigate the tough lineup decisions. We'll reveal our top FAAB waiver wire pickups and discuss which players it's time to start streaming or cut the cord completely in our Cut the Cord segment. A quick reminder, everyone, don't forget to rate, follow, and subscribe, especially those ratings, guys. Please, we really need those ratings. It helps us climb up the charts in the podcast platforms. You could find us
Yes.
on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. A very quick Survivor update. Week 4, our Survivor pool is completely done. Congrats to Arnaldo, who picked the
What a
Chiefs.
year, man.
What a year indeed. Picked the Chiefs to beat the Chargers over 3 people who had the Jets over the Broncos. So Arnaldo will be winning the grand prize. There will be no rebuy this year. We will not do another Survivor pool this year. Thank you very much though for everyone joining. It was last minute, but we got 80 entries, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But we'll leave the rest of the fantasy shenanigans to fantasy football and gambling. All right, guys, it's time to break down our winners and losers for week 4. FAAB, Nacc, and I will each pick 2 winners and 2 losers from the Thursday and Sunday slate of games and dive into how these performances could shape our expectations moving forward. Before we get into it, just a major shout out to the top fantasy performers of week 4 so far. Again, we have 2 Monday Night Football games currently recording on Monday, so we'll talk a little bit about those on our next episode. But these are for the current Sunday and Thursday slate of games. Derrick Henry and Nico Collins put up an impressive 36 fantasy points, and not far behind is Nacc's boy Justin Fields with 32. But Nacc, beyond just the raw numbers, who's your first big winner this week and why?
I'm going to go with Chubba Hubbard. It's back-to-back weeks now that this guy has had over 20 points, should I say. Actually, 29 last week, so closer to 30, and then 22 this week. So I think, obviously, everyone thought when they drafted Brooks that he would probably come in and take away the backfield from Hubbard. Maybe not the case, and maybe Hubbard had that in the back of his mind and knew that, hey, I've got to step it up in order to keep my spot here. And I think he's done a solid job. I think obviously changing QBs has done a lot to the team. You see a lot more fight and you see a lot more determination to win and to block and stuff like that. I think with Bryce there, it just wasn't, the spark wasn't there. And now with Andy Dalton at the helm, I think you see more of that. So definitely Chuba Hubbard. You also have Chase Brown, who's looking nice in that backfield. Saw an uptick in snaps as well with 40%. He was
Yeah.
hovering around that 20 to 25% in the first 3 weeks. So that uptick in routes or in excuse me snaps gained him a nice 22 points this week. So him and Zach Moss look pretty cute in that backfield as well.
Yeah, exactly. The theme here is running backs who have cemented themselves as the lead backs. We're a long ways away from Miles Sanders being the guy, and that looks like
Yeah.
a big waste of money for the Panthers. So, agree.
Surprised he's not cut yet.
I'm surprised too. I think he's owed like what $9 million. So I have to
Yeah.
think it's his last year, especially with Brooks on the horizon coming up soon. Who's your second winner, Nacc?
I'm gonna say Kareem Hunt. This guy was on the couch a few weeks ago. Obviously, Steele had that backfield last week when they chose not to activate Hunt. They wanted to give him another week of practice, but again fumbled the ball and didn't see any action the rest of the game, or at least I didn't see him back on the field the rest of the game. And then Hunt had 14 carries for 69 yards for close to 5 yards per carry in his first game back. Like, I don't know why did this guy not sign anywhere? Why did no one want this guy and thought he was a pushover? Look, yeah, he only had 10.5 points, but I think first game back and then, kind of getting his touches, I think, like we said, cementing themselves into the lead role. I think Hunt is your lead back going forward with Pacheco more than likely to miss the season. Yeah, that was my big winner, as well as Hunt coming off the couch and putting in a solid performance.
Nacc, where do you think Pirine fits into this equation?
He's a third down back. He's going to be, pass catching. I'm sure they're going to want Hunt in there on like 2 minutes and stuff like that. But Pirine did steal a touchdown late in the game. He saw some red zone goal line work. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe they're going to give Pirine more of the goal line or red zone stuff, with Hunt doing more of the
Yeah.
brunt work. But again, this was just game one of Hunt, right? Like I think the more he plays, and now with the injury to Rashee Rice, that's gonna open up more avenues in the passing game as well, I feel. So I think look for Hunt to be a big component in that offense going forward.
Yeah. Andy Reid is notoriously tough on rookies that fumble.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Carson Steele, I don't know if we mentioned it last week, but he owns an alligator. So there's some weird domestication stuff on that front. And I feel bad for the guy too, because the first start he had, the Sunday Night Football game against the Falcons, I think he missed his sister's birthday. I think they were showing a video of his sister and
His
the
wedding.
family. Yeah, sister's wedding. Yeah,
Wedding.
yeah, sister's wedding. I'm like, man, you miss your sister's wedding, and now you're riding pine. You're riding pine under Andy Reid. So, but I agree with Hunt. I think I'm surprised he wasn't signed either. FAAB, who's your first winner from the Week 4 current slate of games that just happened?
Mr. Jayden Daniels, the Slim Reaper. The reason why the Washington Commanders are currently first in the NFC East, which is crazy to say after 4 weeks.
Just like everyone drew it up.
I think there was like one or two guys like that was looking at the analysis for the beginning of the season that had like the Redskins making the playoffs, like as a second wild card.
We're just going Redskins.
Redskins.
Whatever.
I think we're just going to say
I
Redskins.
even tried. I started off with Commanders, and I ended up finishing off with Redskins.
It's National Day of
Truth and Reconciliation.
Truth and Reconciliation. I think for one day, FAAB, for one episode, it'd be nice if you do not use Redskins out of respect.
Fine. So the Washington Redskins, first in the NFC East. Yeah, he's been showing out, man. Like we spoke about him last episode too. Like, is he him? I think he is him. Putting up massive points against Arizona, 82% completion rate within the first 4 games of his NFL career, which is the highest ever for any player, any quarterback of all time, to start the season or to start this career. It's nuts. He's super efficient. He's getting it done. Like, he could very well, like right now, I think he is the fantasy number 1 quarterback at this moment right now, even with these 2 games left to play. It's hard to see this not continuing. If you drafted him and you probably got him super late in your draft, or if he's your second quarterback right now in a 2 QB league, which he most likely is, and he's bringing back such massive returns, he's getting it done, and he's efficient, and his average depth of target has been getting bigger as well. Like in the very beginning of the first 2 games, they were kind of small, about like 5 yards per. His game 3 was like almost 10 yards. Average depth of target last game was 6. So he's getting it done, and you even seen like Terry McLaurin reaping the benefits of it as well, which is kind of what you want to see from your players. But in my opinion, the biggest winner though for the Washington Commanders is Mr. Tress Way, their punter, who's only had to punt once in 4 games, which is ridiculous.
That's a great game check, man.
That's wild.
Does he even take a shower?
like yeah, because the equipment probably smells. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to be a Washington fan right now. It really is, because that nobody in that division is really scaring you, quite frankly. Obviously, the Giants aren't, but even Dallas and Philly don't exactly look like super imposing teams that are going to run away with that division right now. So yeah.
So FAAB, I want to ask you, does this? I feel personally this gives me shades of RG3. 100%. And I was curious because I looked at RG3's first 4 games from a fantasy perspective, and Jayden Daniels' first 4 games. RG3 had 25, 30, 24, and 22 fantasy points. Jayden had 28, 13, 28, and 24. Which do you feel has been more impressive so far?
From a fantasy point perspective, obviously you have to go with RG3. But I think from a real quarterback perspective, I think it's Jayden Daniels, just from the way that he's playing. and the way that he's commanding that offense and really spreading the ball around and moving the sticks and all that stuff. Obviously, it helps that Cliff Kingsbury is tailoring that offensive play calling to him and using much more of a college style offense, which is good. It's going to get him acclimated and up to speed a lot quicker as opposed to what's happening right now in Chicago, for example. Yeah. But more, I think RG3 really like lit the world on fire when he came in, and this is not to poo-poo on what Jayden Daniels is doing right now, but like I remember RG3 just running around everywhere. Like
Jayden Daniels that 89-yard run against the that's ingrained in my head.
It is though.
I still just search up that highlight video randomly from time to time.
Yeah, but that doesn't diminish what he's doing because this is really impressive. Nobody expected him to be doing this well after 4 games. Nobody.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just hope that the it doesn't end. We want it to continue for Jayden Daniels, and not be the way it was for RG3. Obviously.
Listen, I was comparing rushing stats.
Yeah,
and RG3 had much more yards per carry, and Jayden Daniels is rushing a little bit more per game. So that's the only thing that's concerning me. But I think I don't know. I feel like he's being a little bit smarter about it. Like, no offense to RG3, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and then until he busts one of those massive runs for 85 yards, I'm going to eat my words. But like, I don't know. I have higher hopes for Jayden for having a longer career just after watching 4 games and being very much in a bubble of a 4-game scenario. But then again, things can change next week.
Yeah. Fab, who's your second winner?
Oh, I got some wide receivers that have been capitalizing on key injuries. Dontayvion, Wicks, Xavier Worthy. Is it two Xaviers? Xavier Worthy and Xavier Leggette. I had a feeling Leggette was going to go off a little bit with Thielen being on IR. 10 targets, touchdown, 19.6 fantasy points. Good to see the rookie getting some action. Xavier Worthy as well. He capitalized on his 4 targets with 4 receptions, 60.3 fantasy points, and a touchdown. Dontayvion Wicks, though, was a target hog. I think he had 15 targets last game. 13 targets, 5 receptions, 24.8 fantasy points, thanks to 2 touchdowns. Those are all because of massive injuries that happened in the sake for Dontayvion Wicks. It was Christian Watson being out and most likely going to miss some time, which we're going to jump into it a little bit. Xavier Worthy obviously capitalizing because Rashee Rice most likely will be off for the rest of the year. And like I mentioned before, Leggette capitalizing on Thielen going on IR after his week 1. But I like out of all 3 of them, obviously I'm excited for Wicks. I'm really excited for Leggette. I think he's in a very good spot to do well over there with it's not the Red Rocket, it's the Red Rifle, excuse me, with the Red Rifle now at the QB spot over there. I don't know. And now that Jordan Love is back playing quarterback for Green Bay, it's gonna just prop up all of the wide receivers right there, and Dontayvion Wicks is definitely going to be a huge benefactor of that. So those are my winners this week.
Yeah, so week over week, it's still hard to see who the guy is in Green Bay. But
you cannot discount 13 targets though in one game.
No, I agree.
But how many did he have in the other games? Like he had 3 targets, 4 targets, and 2 targets. And
the 4 and the 2 I'm not really looking at that much because those are with Willis. Yeah, you have a point about the 3, but I don't know, man. 13 targets, it's a lot.
Yeah, but he only caught 5 of them.
Yeah,
are we overlooking that part of it?
No, for sure.
That's not a good
I agree with you.
His
catch percent. Yeah, I was looking at his catch percentage. It's around the 50s. It's not a great mark. There's a lot of
this is less than 50 even, right? So
I'm sorry, I was looking at your total.
Yeah.
Your total is about 56. There's a lot of Twitter people who love Dontayvion Wicks. He was one of the sleeper darlings this offseason. I just wish, and this will be the last point before we move on, I just wish they could maybe hone in on 3 guys. Feels like they're trying to force feed all of those guys.
Well, I think they will now with Christian Watson out, right?
Well, and Watson's always injured, man. Like,
and he didn't command like that.
He's always injured.
Just on that point, he didn't command like Watson has 7 targets all year, right? So it's not like he was commanding targets to the point where, my God, Dontayvion Wicks now is going to be your superstar in Green Bay.
No, but I feel like when you have 4 healthy wide receivers, like it does reduce the amount of routes that the Wicks could run on a regular basis, unless they're starting 4 wide receiver sets every single game, which they're not. I think it's more that. I think it's just less crowded wide receiver room creates automatic opportunity.
Okay.
So my winners this week, my first one is players who silenced the haters. There was a lot of hate over the past week or so for 2 individuals. The first one being DeAndre Swift. 29.5 fantasy points for the Chicago Bears, 93 rushing yards, 72 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Looked really good. He's the type of player who needs wide open holes to be really effective. He dances around a lot at the line of scrimmage, and the Bears blocked really well yesterday against the Rams. So I thought that was really good for him, good for his confidence. I know there was a lot of talk about Roshan Johnson maybe getting some looks. Obviously, Khalil Herbert's been there too. So it was a really good game for DeAndre Swift. And of course, Lucas's boy, tight end number 1, Travis Kelce. He really shut up the haters. And overall, just as a win, Casey's ability to withstand injuries is really, really strong. The resolve to be able to deal with so many injuries this year is quite impressive. But we'll stick with Kelce. I think it was 7 catches, 87 yards, 15.9 fantasy points. Didn't get into the end zone, but he was back to doing Kelce things, sitting in zones, finding open space for Patrick Mahomes. And that chemistry looks like it's back. Looks like he might be playing his way into shape after a lot of partying during the offseason, but I thought it was very, very promising for people who drafted him really high to see the game that he had. Second winner I have, and it's kind of a rhetorical question I have for myself, but Brian Thomas Jr. Are we sure Marvin Harrison Jr. is the second best wide receiver currently in the NFL?
Yes.
So next my rebuttal. So Brian. So I want to hear what's that based off, because Brian Thomas Jr. 21.9 points in week 4. So far, he has 57.8 fantasy points to Marvin Harrison Jr.'s 47.8. And we'll talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. because I have a little bit of a segue towards Kyler Murray, but way more targets too, and he's getting open like there's no tomorrow. And also, he has the worst QB. So I'd like to know, why is it that we can't consider Brian Thomas Jr. the second best rookie wide receiver right now? Love to know.
The season is very young. Brian Thomas Jr. had his 2 first games at 4 targets each. Now he's actually starting to come up into himself. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first game was a dud. We all know that. Then he blew up in the first game, and now you can in the second game, and you can see him being what everyone expects him to be. I think sustainability wise, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. because he is the alpha in that offense. Even when Trey McBride comes back from his injury,
I think Brian Thomas Jr. is the alpha there too, though.
He's like, it's a 1A 1B though. I think it's more that, right? I think that, and if I'm not mistaken, Christian Kirk had like
he did have
12 or 13 targets or something like that. Like, it was very even. I'm not discounting Brian Thomas Jr. at all. I like him a lot. Another LSU wide receiver that's balling out right now. But no, it's still Marvin Harrison Jr. number 2.
I think Kyler Murray just doesn't see him at times, man. Like, he just doesn't.
Yeah, there's also
see
that.
him. He's very short, right? Like,
that's
what looking in. There was a game where in the first game where he threw the dud, he had him wide open for a touchdown, like 60 plus yards to win the game. Like, he just doesn't see him too, right? So I think he's getting a little, the QB. Yes, the better QB is definitely Kyler Murray, but I guess Trevor Lawrence is a bit bigger guy, can see over the line of scrimmage, and
for sure. I think my point on BTJ is just the fact that wherever, I think he was going in the 8th or 9th round. So the value that you're getting on him is absolutely amazing.
Value,
and
100%.
And he looks the part. He looks really good.
He does.
Like, I thought he was going to be more raw than what I saw, and more of a deep threat, and that's not the case at all. So the rookie wide receivers either way look all really, really good so far.
They're coming as advertised, which is nice to see, because it was a deep wide receiver class, and everyone's everyone's assuming that some of them were gonna stink it up, but no, they're all performing pretty well.
Yes, let's keep it rolling. Nacc, who is your first loser from the week?
Oh, it has to be Cam Akers. This dude, okay, he's had an up and down career. He's had a lot of injuries to deal with, but I could probably say with big confidence he's done in the NFL. It's 2 weeks in a row he had that backfield all to himself with Joe Mixon and Pierce out, and he did absolutely nothing with it. I think it was back-to-back 5-point weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I understand, they had to go through the air to beat the Jags, but in that high-powered offense, Joe Mixon finds a role anyways and puts up points. So I don't think there's no excuse for a guy like Cam Akers to not put up some kind of even double digits, even low double digits I was expecting. People rush to pick this guy up to play. I think I picked him up in one of my leagues last week,
I
and
had him too.
yeah, I was really frustrated with him not putting up points. But I think that seals the deal. When you do it twice in a row and you have the backfield all to yourself with there's no one there to help you. Yeah, big loser this week.
Yeah, the yards per carry wasn't horrible. It was 4.1, but I think he mostly made his day on two decently sized runs at the end of the game. Otherwise, it was there wasn't much there. Second loser, Nacc.
I think this is everyone's loser, and I think everyone's tired of this guy. I think I'm going to be on that bandwagon now, and that's
Come
Kyle
on.
Pitts.
There's a ton of space left.
If it wasn't obvious yet, it's Kyle
all kinds
Pitts.
of space.
Is there space for me to on that bandwagon? I'm
No.
changing my
Three targets,
No.
0 catches, 0 points, averaging 6.1 points this season. 4th overall pick. It's done, buddy. I think it's his last year in Atlanta. I think that they find a way to get rid of this guy. He needs a change in scenery bad. I think we mentioned a guy by the name of Eric Ebron today on how he struggled at the beginning and then was traded and had a few good, decent seasons. Hey, I think it could be. Hey, you never know.
I'm shaking my head because you guys need to respect Eric Ebron because again, like I mentioned, he's had.
Yeah, but he's not a way. Yes, I understand, but
I get your point.
Career is not over. It's not over yet, right? Like if he goes somewhere, imagine he goes to KC or something and like takes the reins from Kelce as he's on, getting a bit older.
No,
I
think he's a bad football player at this point. I think he's just a bad football player. Like I don't even think it's a question of scheme.
I agree. He can't run routes.
Just to rebuttal your point, Nacc, if he goes to KC, like I think KC is not going to know what to do with him. Like
I think Andy Reid would find a way. If there's anyone who could do it, it's definitely Andy Reid. But
I don't disagree with you there. But he was not able to find a way with Kadarius Toney. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okay, but whatever. It's I think two different people. He literally can't catch, right? I don't think like Pitts doesn't have that problem. He's just not getting targeted. I guess maybe he's not getting open. He's just not getting targeted either, right? Like it's very weird. But
I think that'll be the last
big loser.
I think that'll be the last of tight ends getting picked that high. Like I mentioned in our group chat.
Should.
Like if you look at the elite tight ends who've like the Gronks, the Sharps, the Kelce's, Goddards, whoever, like they all get picked in the mid rounds. Like to spend a fourth overall pick on a tight end, one that's not really a tight end, and who can really only run straight. And it just looks like an underwear warrior. Like he's an underwear warrior. That's what he was. Like he performed the combine and he doesn't want to play football. So, FAAB, who is your first loser of this week?
Disappointing top running back picks. So specifically Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall. They both really underperformed this week. Actually, Bijan Robinson has kind of been underperforming since the beginning of the season. He hasn't cracked 17 fantasy points since the beginning of the season, and that trend seems to continue. Unfortunately, it looks as if Algier is not going away, even with the change in offensive coordinator, which I was actually very excited about when Zach Robinson was coming into the fold and got rid of Arthur Smith. I thought, okay, you know what? Algier is going to be an afterthought. It's going to be Bijan's show. It's not the case. They pretty much split carries this week, and he wasn't very efficient nor effective. So listen, better days are ahead if you're a Bijan Robinson owner, but those expectations are coming back as potential RB1 overall numbers, I think, are after 4 weeks, we can assume that's not going to be the case anymore.
I think he was battling a hamstring injury too.
I'm sorry?
He's battling a hamstring injury. Bijan.
So that might have something to do with it. But even at that though, right? I mean, his efficiency hasn't been all that great. He only had one game where he had more than 4 yards per carry as an average. So I don't know. It's my expectations are dwindling quite a bit with Bijan Robinson. Breece Hall, on the other hand, he did start off hot. Lately though, like you have Allen that's been really cutting into his target share and cutting into his snap share as well. I saw a nice stat. Allen's snap share jumped from 22.5% in the first half of the game to 47.4% in the second half, and he's basically forcing a split backfield.
Yeah,
and he's playing out of his mind. He's playing really, really well right now. So he's been performing better than him from a yards per carry perspective, 3.1 versus 4.8. And Hall, even though he still has over 18 points a game in 3 of the last 4, he did put up a dud versus Denver, but mind you, that entire offense was just stale.
Yeah, it was a raining game too. But
yeah, it was a rating game too, but you thought, I don't know, like he just wasn't efficient.
Threw a ton. That's what actually doesn't make sense. Is I think Rodgers threw the ball 42 times. Yeah. What I've been reading about Bijan and Hall is that they are dancing at the line too much. Mm-hmm. Therefore, their coaches are opting for the more power backs. We're just gonna kind of get those 2-3 yards. Yeah, just like enough dancing. Just go through the line, find the hole, and go through. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Fab, I'm just curious, just quickly. If you're a Bijan or Breece owner, are you hitting the panic button and are you thinking of trading them for a 2-for-1 kind of depth move?
I mean, it depends on the rest of my roster. I think the panic button is premature, especially for Breece, because it's 3 out of 4 games he balled, right? Like, I mean, this is one game, it was a bad game for everybody. So I'll chalk it up as just not getting it done what needs to get done, and that's it. Like, better days are ahead. And Bijan Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, I was looking at his schedule beforehand. Let me just bring it up right now. He has a pretty decent schedule coming up with some very nice rush defenses that he can ideally exploit. So I'm not hitting the panic button on them. I am cautious though, and I am hoping that if I do own one of these guys, the rest of my roster is also pretty well supported. That way, I can continue my games with not having my expectation of an RB1 overall coming into fruition.
Got it. Give me your second loser of the week, Fab.
Josh Jacobs. He's another one where, I mean, he could have probably been put into this segment with disappointing top picks, to be honest with you, because he hasn't been as up to expectations lately. He's been losing a lot of snap share to either running back, whether it's Emmanuel Wilson lately or the rookie Lloyd before, until he'd been put into IR. Specifically, just the last game, I was looking at some stats about him. Like, he's wasn't even used that often in the 2-minute drill. He's there for early downs and some goal line work, but short yardage to third downs and all that stuff, it has been more Emmanuel Wilson than it has been Josh Jacobs. His efficiency is all right. It's better than last year, but I think just Wilson has been just more effective, right? From a fantasy perspective. And he's one of those rookie running backs that are earning their way into getting more carries, into getting more snaps, more attempts. So he's another one of my guys that didn't really necessarily come as advertised. I know that we spoke about him at length at the beginning of the season, when we were talking about guys that can go into new running backs going into a very good situation, and you thought it would be Josh Jacobs in that perspective. But, apart from that one game where he had 32 carries, he's only ever had 16 or 14. The receptions really haven't been there all that much. So I would be panicking more on Josh Jacobs more than I would be panicking on Bijan and Breece Hall. I mean, he's only broken 10 fantasy points. Sorry, let me bring up the stats real quick. Yeah, he's never hit 15 fantasy points this year. So I'd be much more concerned with him because people drafted him as their RB1. And
yeah, look, people drafted him as their RB1. I think most people got him at a value, probably third or fourth round, which is good. I have him in 2 leagues. But this is what Matt LaFleur does. If I recall, with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones never got the full depth of carries, even though he should have.
Yeah.
So I think LaFleur is one of those guys who likes keeping.
For years, all you were
hearing
was free Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
And now exactly. Look who he's doing in Minnesota right now, right?
Absolutely. My 2 losers. First one I have is Jalen Hurts' top 10 QB credentials. Look, 17.32 fantasy points against the Bucks, back-to-back average performances. He's only at 16.9, basically 17 points per game this year. He was at 25 points per game in 2022 and 22 points per game in 2023. And he looks like 2021 Jalen Hurts, when he looked really, really, really bad against the Buccaneers during that playoff game. Surprisingly, he has really bad stats against the Bucks. He just does not play well against them, and that was the case yesterday. 27 turnovers since 2023. We all know, guys, we talk about Daniel Jones all the time. That's Daniel Jones level bad. 27 turnovers in basically a year of football. That's 2 turnovers a game. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Well, I mean, he hasn't had his top 2 targets the last 2 games. No. Let's give him that for a little.
I can't, because he had them last year. He had them last year, and he had the same issues. When he gets blitz, he freezes. He needs to see. he has the issues that Justin Fields used to have, where he needs to see guys completely open and to let go of the football. And I find he looks slow when he does run. Like we've talked about this, he doesn't look as fast as he used to as he used to look. Personally, I would. And
in game one, he looked good. That's what in game one he looked quick.
He looked quick, and then I don't know. Like I find Justin Fields right now might be a better quarterback. Like if I had to pick, like
he's definitely playing better.
He's playing better. He looks better. He's better deep balls, letting go of the ball. So for me, Jalen Hurts. That entire situation with the Eagles and Sirianni is an absolute recipe for disaster. So that is my first loser of the week. Secondly, I have Kyler Murray, who we talked about it in our preseason shows. We all felt that he would be a top 5 QB this year. Nacc and Bush League, you picked him as your... did you pick him as your second? No, sorry.
No, Sta has him. Matty has him as his first QB.
I'm thinking of someone else. Either way, doesn't matter. We all thought he was a top 5 QB. You were weighing on him, Nacc. 10.9 fantasy points against a bad Washington D. Under 20 points in 3 of the 4 games. And he's underutilizing Marvin Harrison Jr. I mentioned it. He's MHJ is 28th in targets, which doesn't make any sense if you look at.
You can't see him.
No, honestly, I really think that's the thing. And when I was watching a bit of that game yesterday, it was hike the ball, scramble out of the pocket to see his intended receiver, and then throw the ball. So this just might be who he is.
Running for nothing. He does a lot of running for nothing. He overruns for no reason.
Yes. He hasn't been.
You ever see him running like super fast, running for his life, and like no one's chasing him, but he's just I don't know. It's weird.
I think the height thing is definitely an issue, but this just might be who he is. Like he hasn't been over 20 fantasy points per game since 2021, and obviously we know he had the injuries. But I think the worst part of it, and I'll end with this, is that he lost yesterday against a Cliff Kingsbury offensive coordinated team. It's and wonderful. a lot of Cards fans were thinking Kingsbury was the issue. And we saw what he did with Jayden Daniels yesterday. So starting to look like it might be Kyler Murray the issue. So that'll be it for our winners and losers for week 4. Make sure to look at our social media account. We'll be able to post clips of those as well. Now is our injury update this week. So there's quite a bit, so we'll try to go fast. Anthony Richardson had a hip pointer yesterday. He left the game. Shane Steichen brought him back, ran a running play, and then he got injured again. So we saw Joe Flacco do what Joe Flacco does best. He came in, might get the keys of the city again. It was amazing. 168 yards, 2 TDs. So we'll see what happens. I think it looks like Anthony Richardson will be back, though. Taysom Hill, bruised ribs. He got me 14 or 15 fantasy points yesterday. He is my QB3 and my backup tight end, so I'm hoping he will be back soon. But he got bruised ribs yesterday against the Falcons. Jonathan Taylor, I think it was a mild high ankle sprain. I don't think it's anything too serious, so sure we'll see him again in week 5. Christian McCaffrey, that was the big news that came out of the NFL today. It seems like he's back from Germany. Looks like he has Achilles tendonitis on, I think, Nacc, you were saying it's on both legs?
Yeah, they said it got to both legs, and doctors were saying it's actually quite common that would happen.
It spread.
So it looks like he's targeting a November return, or if not, it could be longer. I mean, I think they just sit him until the playoffs at this point, if he even plays again. I know, Nacc, you were saying the retirement news.
I was just seeing rumors. Like it's just rumors on Twitter. Like, if it's if this is really what it is, he's plan on him retiring or announcing his retirement. Like there's it's just obviously probably speculation on Twitter. Like there's no credible source talking about that.
Running back Nick Chubb, the Browns are opening his 21-day practice window, so he will practice on Wednesday. That's absolutely great news. If you can, put $5 on Nick Chubb being comeback player of the year. Either Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins. If you still can't do that, you're going to win some money.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign that they opened up his window right
that's
off.
Nice to see. That's really nice to see.
That was a brutal injury, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of practice windows, Jonathan Brooks, torn ACL. Rookie Jonathan Brooks with the Panthers, torn ACL with Texas last year in college. His practice window will not be activated this week, but it looks like he's in line to potentially make his debut in week 6. Rashee Rice, it looks like it's an ACL. I don't know if the MRI was done yet, but yeah, it looks like he's getting a second opinion.
Yeah,
unlikely that we see him again this year. Devontae Adams came up on the injury report late, I believe, last Friday. Looks like it's a hamstring. Could miss a couple of weeks. Christian Watson, we talked about him. High ankle sprain, likely an IR candidate. So that'll have to be monitored. Cordell Patterson looked good. Thought he looked good running the ball too. Looks like he got an ankle injury. So we'll have to see on that front. My boy Puka Nacua in one of my leagues, sadly have had him in IR basically the entire year. Looks like he's out another month, so a potential week 9 return according to Jake Glazer. And finally at the tight end position, Trey McBride, he missed the game against the Commanders with a concussion, so it looks like he's probably on the concussion protocol. Hopeful to be back week 5.
Done. Commanders, well done.
Hey, man.
Way to be respectful.
Again, Truth and Reconciliation Day, man. Got to do it. So that's our injuries for the week. And now moving on to our FAAB and waiver wire segment. Just a friendly reminder, we are looking at players on Yahoo who are below the 50% rostered threshold. And we mentioned it in the early part. After week 4, buys commence. So in week 5, we'll have the Lions, Chargers, Eagles, and Titans all on bye. So those will be very difficult decisions in your lineups to see who to keep or who to drop. So at QB, we have Taysom Hill, 14.4 points against the Falcons yesterday. 39% owned, injured in the second half with his ribs and abdomen. But to me, this is a guy that if you could pick up for 3 to 5% of your budget, especially because he's injured, that really helps either your backup tight end position or, again, even your backup QB3 position, especially in a 2 QB league, which is what I will be doing as I don't have a viable QB3 right now.
2 tutties, man.
Yeah. He always has that game, right, Nacc?
Yeah.
Anytime you've had Kamara, I know how pissed you've been when they give it to Taysom Hill.
Kamara ended up having a great game anyways, but because Taysom got hurt, so he couldn't get that third one in,
Yeah, totally. At the running back position, we talked about Kareem Hunt, 10.5 points, 35% owned. There's also Trey Sermon, obviously only 0.8 points because he just came in for a short relief for Jonathan Taylor, 1% owned. And there was Jeremy McNichols, who maybe could be an interesting play if Eckler is out. Obviously, for Kareem Hunt, we talked about him a few weeks ago, but we're going to bring him back now that he had the big game. FAAB, how much would you be willing to put on Kareem Hunt?
Like easily 40 to 50% of my FAAB. Like easily. Like we saw what he did after being put up from the practice squad for barely being there for like less than a week. And he started and he got 14 carries, 69 yards, and he led the backfield. Like he is going to be the guy going forward. You can argue that you can spend all of your FAAB, quite frankly, because he could potentially turn into a league winner.
Nacc,
yeah, I don't know. I think I probably tend to agree. Depending on what your FAAB is like and what your running back situation is like, you're definitely going to want to get Kareem Hunt if he's out there in your league. I own him, I think, in 2 leagues, so I'm happy that I only had to spend like that 12% of the budget on him. But definitely after he's actually played, easily 40% of the budget, and as Fab mentioned, you may have to use 50% to make sure to get him.
Yeah, you might be desperate, and I don't know. For me, it's a very simple. Like if you need it, go get it, go spend the money. He's going to be the guy, and we saw that already.
In the year of our Lord 2024, we are spending $50 on Kareem Hunt, and I don't blame you guys. I agree with you, but
hey man, this is the same year that we spent $35 on Isaiah Likely.
He's only 29 years old.
That's
yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I was honestly
he's still
shocked.
young, man, and he's been in and out of the league and with so many teams. Well, so many. It's the same 2 teams, but all the time.
Yeah, seriously. I think running back Trey Sermon, McNichols McNichols may be interesting if Eckler's out again, so I'd monitor that. But
yeah,
I think
Nichols
Sermon
had a nice
is
game.
Sermon is maybe just like a few dollars here and there, a few percentage points here and there if you're a Jonathan Taylor owner. At wide receiver, we have 3 interesting ones this week. Dontayvion Wicks at 13% owned, Josh Downs at 14% owned, as well as Leggette at 14% owned. Nacc, which one of these would you? Which one of these wide receivers would you spend a decent amount of FAAB money on?
I think I'm looking at Leggette. I think he called out and wanted the ball, and he looks really good. And they have him as second on the depth chart right now, ahead of Mingo. Is it Mingo?
Oh yeah, Jonathan
Mingo, Jonathan
Jonathan
Mingo.
Mingo. Yeah,
Like that guy is just complete afterthought. Even with Thielen down, I think Leggette came with high upside into the season, and now he's got his shot and he looks great. I mean, Josh Downs, if it's Joe Flacco, he's got a quarterback that can be accurate and not just throw the deep ball. So there's him too. But Leggette, I'm confidently putting 10 to 15% FAAB on him for sure. Again, Thielen comes back, so you might get a little bit of a pushback on the depth chart. And the guy, I'm not gonna. We talked about it before. I'm not racing to put all kinds of money on Dontayvion Wicks, like you mentioned, Raj. He's the guy and that offense is kind of spread around. Besides Reed, who you can kind of trust most every week, especially now with Love back. I don't know what you guys think, but percentage wise of FAAB for Wicks, but those 13 targets don't really scream to me because he only caught 5 of them. Didn't show much in the first 3 games either before that. So I'm not gonna empty the bank for Wicks.
FAAB. Any rebuttal?
I'm not gonna empty the bank for Wicks either, but I'm gonna put like 10% on him. Like it's hard for me to pass up a player that got that many targets, and I think with Christian Watson out, like it's only gonna continue. He's not gonna get 13 targets every week for sure, but I think he's gonna be involved in the offense. I agree with your point, Nacc, about Josh Downs. If Flacco is the quarterback going forward, 100%, yeah, I would be interested in Downs, but as of right now, if Anthony Richardson is going forward, I don't trust any pass catcher on the Colts, including Michael Pittman. Xavier Leggette, I think, is going to ball for the rest of the season. I would put $15 on Leggette, no problem. $15 to $20 on him. I think he's going to be there to stay, especially if Dalton is continuing to be under center, which if they're winning games, he will be. And I think he will be a huge benefactor of that.
I think people are going to blow their wads on Wicks, man. I think you're going to see a lot of people.
I will do
I'm getting him
first.
From the sounds of it, I'm getting him over you guys.
Well, how much money are you putting?
Definitely going to take more than $10. That's for sure.
I need some wide receiver, but I need wide receiver help in Bush League. Like Jameson Williams is up and down. Diggs has been good.
Oh, Jameson Williams up and down. I wonder who could have predicted that.
Oh my god!
I wonder.
Any opportunity to go after the slender
it's so easy to call out your winners, Nacc. Tell us about your losers. Go ahead.
I wonder.
Yeah, seriously, eh?
I wonder.
All right, for tight end, this is an interesting week for tight ends from a FAAB perspective because Laporta is going to be on bye. Dallas Goedert is going to be on bye as well. So there's Tucker Kraft at 17.3 points yesterday, 1% owned. Cade Otton at 11.2 points, 15% owned. I don't know what you guys think. Nacc, which one of these? Obviously, Kraft has a bit more of the name brand, I guess, and I guess the better QB, but it also depends how much you want to spend on them. If you want to spend on them.
It's a tight end position has been a crapshoot this year. I feel like it's 1 week it's this guy, 1 week it's the other guy, especially all these guys on waivers. So for me, it's hard to spend more than a couple percent on these guys because it's like Kraft 17.3 points. Like next week it's going to be 4. It's so to like example Conklin was a huge waiver wire guy to pick up for tight end if you needed a tight end, and what did he get? Three targets, 1 catch. uh, yeah, I don't know, man, a couple percent each, I think, not more than that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. I kind of like Kraft. I have Goddard in one of my leagues, so I'm gonna have to be looking for a tight end because I don't carry 2 tight ends on my roster. except for if one of them is Kyle Pitts, and I have to have a backup tight end because Kyle Pitts is a different conversation. So yeah, I like Tucker Kraft a little bit, but same hesitation with the Dontayvion Wicks thing. Like, he's going to need some targets, and there's a lot of mouths to feed there. So I'm not spending more than $1 or $2. And even then, if I don't get it, I won't be really upset about it.
Very good.
But I would also look into Zach Ertz too.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Zach Ertz been pretty consistent with his targets. Not a lot of volume, but he's always getting 4, 5, 3. And he's readily available. I think he's available right now he's only rostered 30% right now. So he's available in 70% of leagues in Yahoo. And with the buys coming up for your tight end, Zach Ertz could be a viable option. You could probably get him for cheap, if not free.
It's madness. A good tight end week is like 6 points now. We wanted to add a new segment during our FAAB and waiver wire advice period. Get ahead of the curve. So this is designed to help you stay a bit ahead of the bidding wars. We're going to spotlight some players who are probably under 5% of your budget. Under 5% or so owned, where you could spend under 5% or so of your budget, and they could be game changers down the line. So at QB, we had Jarrett Stidham, who's 0% owned. Bo Nix looks really bad right now. I mean, despite the fact that the Broncos are 2-2, I get that they might not want to mess with the rookie QB's confidence, but I think they had -7 yards at the half yesterday. So maybe it might be time to just pick up Jarrett Stidham if you have some room. Obviously, we mentioned Joe Flacco at 1% owned. Anthony Richardson is injured basically every single game of his career.
Yeah.
At least every single game. Yeah. He will get injured. The odds are that he will get injured again. Be prepared. Pick up Flacco if you could afford it, if you have the room, so you don't have to spend $40, $50 on him afterwards. I was about to call him Alexia Cortez. What's her name? It was Ocasio-Cortez.
Alexandra
AOC, Aiden O'Connell, 0% owned. Minshew's been on thin ice. I watched the game yesterday. I think if the Raiders had lost, they would have benched Minshew. So I think he stands to live another week. But that's AOC I have on my roster, and I think I spent 0% or $1 on him. Drake May, 3% owned. Another quarterback that's been awful, Jacoby Brissett. The Pats absolutely cannot move the ball. And if we're seeing what we're seeing with the other rookie QBs, you have to think it's only a matter of time that Gerard Mayo puts Drake May into the ball game. At running back, Alexander Mattison, he had 6 points yesterday against the Browns. He looked like the far better runner. Zamir White had a key fumble late in the game. He's 33% owned, but I think you could probably get him really, really cheap. They're probably going to still go with Zamir White as the starter for one more game, but I think he's on thin ice. And an interesting one could be Noah Gray, tight end for the Chiefs, 8 points against the Chargers yesterday, 0% owned. I would expect more snaps and target share with Chiefs down to pass catchers. And lastly, other pass catchers on the Chiefs, or ones that could be traded to the Chiefs. Obviously, there's Sky Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman. Guys, is there anyone out of those 3 that you might be interested in?
Not at this moment.
Not a single one.
No. That's all I needed.
The Kansas City pass catcher that we'll be interested in has not yet been traded to the Chiefs.
Do you have any predictions on who might that be?
I mean, we were theorizing Devontae Adams. I saw what's his name, Darius Slayton.
That's not going to happen. They're not going to trade within the division. There's no.
No, of course not.
They're not getting Adams.
No, they're not getting Adams.
I heard
DeAndre Hopkins. I read as well.
Deontay Johnson. I heard could be a name.
Hopkins would be a good one.
But the Chiefs have traded for a wide receiver in the last 2 years at the trade deadline, so they most likely will trade for a wide receiver. We just don't know who he is yet.
And lastly, our cut the cord segment. Sometimes you just got to cut the cord. So we're going to outline some guys who are bringing you down. Guys, it's bye week. It's bye week season. There might be some guys that you're going to have to drop to make way for other key positions that you're going to have to start. So we're going to help you identify who to cut loose so you can make and add some fresh talent to turn your season around. So we have Carson Steele. We talked about him earlier, 2 carries, back-to-back weeks with key fumbles. And again, Kareem Hunt got 14 carries, so I think that's an easy one. Cam Akers, another guy we talked about. Joe Mixon was a game-time decision during yesterday's game. and only 5.3 fantasy points. I think Mixon is back next week, or at least I hope he's back next week. I have him in 4 out of my 5 leagues.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm overextended on Mixon for sure. Jonathan Brooks is one, FAAB, I wanted you to maybe chime in on. I know we talked about his activation to the practice squad. I thought this could be one that was interesting because of the way Chubba Hubbard has looked. You think maybe otherwise because of how talented he is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basing this off the draft capital that they invested in him and how they've been excited to have him on the field, and just by the fact that it might take him longer to ramp up. So I can understand if people need to cut the cord on Jonathan Brooks, but if he's on your IR, he's not really wasting any space at the moment. Because typically, whenever a running back does come back from an ACL tear like his, that happened in November, there's a ramp up period. We saw with Breece Hall last year, right? So even by like week 9, you're probably only going to be able to see Jonathan Brooks operating at his full max potential. So I can understand if you need to cut the cord on that for roster situations, but I would still hold steady if possible, because this is another guy that can really push you into the playoffs and potentially help you win a championship. Because Chubba's good, we all know that, but Jonathan Brooks is eventually going to be the guy in that backfield.
I just don't see it happening this year, personally. And I feel like it's telling that, as we mentioned, he hasn't been activated from he hasn't been activated to practice. His 21-day window hasn't been activated yet. So telling that he's not yet ready to even practice is something. And like you said, there's a ramp up period. I think with all the injuries around the league, if you don't have another injury where, consists of your IR spot and he's not taking up room, sure, I would keep him, but it's going to be pretty hard to hold him another 5 to 6 weeks before he starts really producing for you.
If you can afford it, I think it's going to be beneficial, but I get it if you can't, because
I have someone on IR in all 5 of my leagues.
Yeah, well, that's
of course.
thing, right?
Everyone should. Everyone usually have. The injury is crazy this year. It's crazier than it's been in
IR
a lot of years.
in all of my leagues too, but in 2 of them is Jonathan Brooks.
Another rookie.
Your team has the best ACLs, Fab. That's why.
They really do, though. They really do.
Best.
Another rookie running back, Blake Corum. This one's tough. I mean, if you're a Kyren owner, I get why you'd want to keep him. But if you don't have Kyren, he hasn't rushed the ball in back-to-back games. So I'm not even sure why they drafted him. I would cut the cord on this one.
Me neither, man. Yeah. It's such a weird one.
Waste. Christian Watson, we talked about it. Even if he does come back, I think we're starting to see that wide receiver core. There's just too many mouths to feed. Another one of your boys, FAAB, Calvin Ridley, 1.9 points last week. I don't know about this one. You have to sell me on this one.
He had one very good game. He's never had more than 7 targets. I think Will Levis' experiment can be summed up as not being able to get the right players the ball. As of right now, he has one reception for 5 yards. As of this recording at 9:06 p.m. on Monday. He has a bye week next week too, so it's another one of the bye week casualties that might exist. So yeah, I'm not. You can find better out there. We already spoke about half of them. They're on FAAB right now.
If you still have them on your team after Wednesday, we're calling you out next week.
Call me out on it, please.
It's true though.
I have a very good roster, and I don't need to drop anyone.
It's true though. I find the wide receivers this year. There's a ton of depth. So
we just talked about it before. The rookies are actually showing up, and it's kind of hard to say like, oh yeah, I'm going to start Calvin Ridley instead of Leggette, or I'm going to start Calvin Ridley instead of like Xavier Worthy right now. So I don't know. If you can roster him, great. If not, I would move on and find something that can find a lottery ticket of a player instead of Calvin Ridley.
And last one we had, Nacc, I'm curious your thoughts on this one, Isaiah Likely. 3 straight games of 3 targets or less. Man, the people who spend money on him.
It's a tough one because I think he went for an average of like 45% after week 1. In every single one of my leagues where he was not owned, people ponied up the dough for this guy. I think we're all laughing because we know who did it in our league. I thought it was pretty crazy amount, to say the least. But yeah, and I think the cord had been cut in our league with Likely, and I think man, time to move on. Both tight ends look terrible. And I think it's just the Derrick Henry show now in Baltimore, man.
Yeah.
They're trusting him more and more.
They're a running
He's
team.
ramping up. They're a really running team. And like, I don't know, he doesn't have to go really security blanket with his passes anymore. He's not even Lamar's not what did he throw for 150 yards last night, right? So
those are MVP type numbers again.
Who?
MVP.
Oh, please don't get me started. Please don't get me started with MVP.
Let's not start this either because it's. I don't want to. We're at 55 minutes. I don't want to get into it. Just the last one to add, guys. Will Levis has not come back into the game. Nacc resident Steelers QB knower. How much would you put on Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer?
Considering they have a bye next week, I probably would hold off. I mean, if you want to put a percent to kind of keep, but if he's on bye, like he's going to just be taking up your spot, and without hearing the news of what exactly Levis has, maybe it's a 2-week injury and he's back after the bye. You don't know. So I don't know.
If they win this game and they look good, I don't think Levis goes back.
Oh, it could be, man. Mason looked good the last 3 games last year, so good for him for going to a situation where he knew the QB wasn't, cemented there, and he was going to have a shot. So,
yeah. All right, folks, that'll do it for the Bush League Huddle Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, rate, follow, and subscribe on all our socials and your podcast platform of choice. FAAB, what was that?
Jahmyr Gibbs, another rushing touchdown.
Is that his 3rd touchdown today?
That is his 2nd today. Sorry, I don't want to mess up your outro.
Be very upset.
Do I restart? No, it's okay. Look out for our FAAB and waiver wire picks on Instagram, and obviously our love-hate for week 5. Our episode is going to be recorded very shortly. So on behalf of Nacc and FAAB, I am Raj. We will see you next time. Are you going to cue the music?
Cue the music,
cue
baby.
The music.
Oh, God.
Jahmyr Gibbs to the moon, baby. Woo!
You got to do better over there.
That Miami Titans game, what a stinker.
That's a barn burner right there. We are having a lot of fun.
Man, Stamati picked the real game to go to, man. He must be falling asleep Marco style in his seat.
Poor guy.
Wow.
At least he's having fun. As long as he's
really hard to watch. Really, really hard to watch.
You know what isn't, though? This podcast. Ayo!
See you tomorrow, guys.
Good night.